Good evening, everybody. I think we're live already. My name is Joey. This is the weekly annual recording of the Comedeorological Report, Comedy Meteorology Report. Comedy plus meteorology, that equals Comedeorology. It's your show about how much the weather sucks. And it does. It does suck, yeah. It's always something different. It's like too much rain. That's too much sun. That's too much. That's not enough. It's always something, isn't it, Brandon?
Oh, yes. Always something. Always something to do. Around here. What they
I
say.
just need a minute to spread the link around. How you doing this week, Brandon Hauk?
Oh, doing wonderful. Playing hockey again this week. We're got some weather this week. It feels like winter again. Southern Alberta. Got some snow on the ground. It's nice.
Yeah, what do you got for us this week?
What have we got for us this week? Well, we've been under the influence of some fog for the last couple of days, and we're gonna see that clear out a little bit by the weekend. And yeah, maybe talk about a truck that got tipped over and what kind of substances there were in that truck. So
Ah,
tipped over by the
substances.
winds, that roared through
Substances in
the
the truck.
van.
You had a train derailment.
And we had a train derailment this week. Yeah.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, we that was I was one of the first people to get the information from that, and I wasn't. So I got the information, I got the emergency card out on our radio, and I was pretty much the first person to talk about it. And all of a sudden, all these other news agencies started messaging me for information. It was quite, it was pretty fun. Yeah, it was a fun evening. Got busier than I thought would be for 6 o'clock on a Monday night. But yeah, nobody got hurt in that train derailment, and yeah, they're still cleaning up the mess there. But just on the east side of Brooks, right near the golf course, there, it's where it occurred.
Full train, like,
It's that at least 17 to 30, I'd say 30 cars got.
holy,
It was
what
a
were they
mess.
carrying?
I think there's some with some uh dangerous goods, I guess, but nothing too wild. Other than that, it's just like
Just
Canadian
some
Tire stuff.
dangerous goods. No big deal.
Yeah, there might have been some gas in a few motors, something like something that crazy, but not too crazy.
Up in Northern Ontario right now, 15 to 20 centimeters is expected. Could be 15 to 25 centimeters, 2 to 3 centimeters per hours. Tapering off Friday. Snow at times is affecting portion of far northwestern Ontario. So this is sort of weather that's in somewhat a result of the Colorado low that is somewhat of a result of the atmospheric river. Is that how you would explain it?
Well, it was part of the atmospheric river that hit the California coast, and then it developed in a new low, which became the Colorado low that moved its way north into Saskatchewan, Manitoba. Like parts of the Trans-Canada Highway was closed today from Swift Current to Parkbag, Saskatchewan. That was earlier today, and then we also had a lot of precipitation move through Manitoba as well, freezing rain in Winnipeg, and there's finally seeing the days upon days of fog come to an end in Winnipeg, so that's good news there. And then we even had some severe weather stateside in Illinois and Wisconsin had some tornadoes touching down today, and some of those tornadoes did some damage today. So it's
Yeah, I
all
wasn't
one
paying as
complex weather
close
system.
attention to the radar scope until this evening when there was not as much going on. But there's quite a bit still going on in the Lake Michigan area, that's for sure, and we'll look at that in a minute. And yes, this is all the result of the same thing up here in Ontario, as we said. 5 to 10 millimeters, 20 millimeters by mid-afternoon tomorrow. So wait, we're at significant rainfall today. That was yeah, okay. At 6 o'clock tonight, they put this out. 15 to 25 millimeters expected by, I'm like stuttering, later tonight. Prolonged rainfall event. Many areas have reported 10 to 20 millimeters, with a further 5 to 10 millimeters possible. Rain will transition to snow tonight or early Friday morning. So that is going on there. And there's only one little thing up here.
It'd be freezing rain, I
Yeah,
bet.
up to 2 millimeters expected. So there's that. There's that. I want to ask the Meteo guys about some of these crazy jet stream. I'll hold off. We'll wait. We'll look at these things in a minute. Let's go back to that radar I was just talking about.
Oh
So
yeah.
let me know if you can see that. So currently, this was. That's a better look now, I think, now. Because things
Yep.
are. When I first opened the radar scope, I haven't looked at it in a little while. There's a lot of activity on the west shore of Lake Michigan. And that is now, as you can see, has moved across. So south of Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, they're seeing some thunderstorm activity right now through there.
Yep. Yes, and then couple hours ago, say right at the 5 o'clock hour, right around 5 o'clock Mountain Daylight Time hour. Things really erupted in Wisconsin. Got some pictures of tornadoes there. Yeah, it
Okay,
was
we'll look
that
at that in a second.
tornado that touched down just on the outskirts of Albion, Texas, or not Texas, Wisconsin, Fulton. Yeah.
These would be rough nights to be on the Great Lakes, I tell you right now.
All right.
You know, whether you're there or you're out on Superior, even I'm sure if you were to look at the velocity scans, I don't know. I'm sure it's pretty windy on Lake Superior right now. Everything's being a little slow. There's this storm activity going on as well here. Mark Ingalls is entering the room. Here we go. Turn this back to reflect. So this is going on Sault Ste. Marie, Dubreuilville.
Greetings. Can you hear me?
Hi, Mark. We can hear you.
Excellent.
Yeah, good to see you, man. We're just looking at some radar images right now, seeing what's
Well, let
happening.
me, yeah, this is part of that same storm complex that produced the tornado in Wisconsin and Illinois.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yes, Brandon was just talking about that. And look, here comes Hilding. Everyone's slowly coming into the show. Okay, let's have a look at this guy over here for a second.
It's nice
Because,
to see some snow over there north of the Lake of the Woods. My
Oh
dad
yes,
yeah.
will be happy about that.
is what we
It
got right
is.
now. Currently in northwest Ontario is a fair bit of rain happening, unless you're up by Wabascang or Ear Falls or Madsen. Maybe they're getting some snow, maybe Grassy Narrows, but it looks like Kenora. There's quite a bit of rain happening right now, Vermilion
Hey,
Bay,
can
blah, blah,
you
blah.
can you switch that to the correlation coefficient? Right there. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's so I think what we're looking at here is if you look and I'm gonna pronounce all these names wrong because I'm not from Ontario, but if you look southeast of Dryden, you'll
Yep.
see an
Right.
area with like the yellows and the blues. That's the lower correlation coefficient. So I would interpret that to be mixing rain and snow because what the correlation coefficient shows is if it's closer to 1, then all of the particles are the same size and shape. And if it's closer to 0, then they're all perfectly not the same size and shape. So I would interpret that as mixing rain and snow, whereas to the northwest there, that's probably either all rain or all snow.
Yeah, excellent. So I think just the Make Michigan ones really are the only real stories going on. And then Canada, Michigan, Ottawa. So there we go. We kind of looked at all that already. If you want to have a quick look, Mark, before I turn off the radar.
We had the Weather Channel on at work, and so they were talking about that line that was going through Chicago.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I have this what do you call Radio Garden app where I can go to
Oh
all
yeah, I have that.
radio stations around the world. So I was kind of going around different stations to see which ones were covering the tornadoes there. Found one of them, but yeah, that's kind of cool.
Can I have a chance at sharing my screen? This will be a good
Yeah,
good
for
test
sure. Go
if I
ahead.
can. All right, let's see.
Should be able to.
Allow share. Can you see it?
Oh
There
yeah.
we go.
Okay, so kind of what we're looking at here is, it's occluded a little bit, so it's a little
Yep.
messy now. So I'll actually do the last map. This is 21Z. So that's probably about 1 p.m. Pacific today. And we got this big low pressure system in northwestern Minnesota. And the big stormy boys are there between the warm front at the north end of Wisconsin and the upper peninsula of Michigan, and this cold front that drapes down towards like Kansas. And so you can see temperatures in Wisconsin when the tornado happened earlier that you pointed out, Brandon. 10 to 15 C, which is just incredible. I mean, look at these in Michigan. I see a 62 here, and that's like 16 C. So incredible warmth surging north as part of that.
Yeah, I think Windsor, Ontario was the Canadian hotspot today at 14 degrees Celsius there. So, oh yeah.
Well, you would
That's remarkable.
You would expect them of anybody to have be the hot spot. That's the one thing about Windsor. When
Yeah, the
it's
southernmost point.
yeah, when it's like Saskatchewan, Maple Creek, Saskatchewan, then you're like, what in January, right? So
I'm waiting for it to be Dawson.
Dawson.
oops,
Oh yeah.
I'm hitting all kinds of wrong buttons.
Yeah, let's go through the HTML of this page.
Yeah. Okay, so here's something pretty crazy looking. Here's the 500, just the bottom end of where planes fly. Here's our jet stream. And look at some of this wonky stuff that's going to happen here in the next week. And you can see why some of that warmth might come to prairies that they're saying. They might get a little bit warmer in the prairies than. But look at all this. What a mess. What a mess.
Wow. I like
Yeah.
this display a lot. You can really see, especially right here in the early stages, what we call split flow, where the jet stream kind of splits up right at Western North America, and that's a very typical El Nino pattern.
And that's what we were talking about last week too, which helped bring the atmospheric river to California, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you can see the tropical branch of the split flow is now aiming towards Mexico.
Yeah,
So
and
that'll bring
strong.
some, yeah, and that's right. And so that'll bring some beneficial rain to them where they are experiencing severe drought.
Strong. This pale blue dot, everyone you've ever made love to or hated or thrown a sausage at is here on this fucking planet. So here's the jet stream, same height animation, 500 millibar on earth.nullschool.net. And
Wow, that's incredible.
this is what I was talking about last week. Was a jet stream going, and it starts off in the Atlantic Ocean.
Well, look at
And it
this.
goes,
You could almost say it starts off in Brazil.
pretty much.
Oh.
Yeah, it touches Brazil. There you go. So yeah, you can say that. Touches
You know,
Brazil.
Chris Calais lived in Brazil for 2 years.
Lucky bugger. And then it comes all the way across and then we have the split flow you're talking about. And then Mexico, yeah, like you're saying, really, really pounding down through in there. And look at that jet stream. Crazy.
Yeah, is this roughly current?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this where the jet stream, like even 2 days ago, that jet stream was oriented right on top of Los Angeles. So now it's shifted south a little bit.
I don't believe I can go back, or can I?
Click the double arrow.
Yeah, I don't know if I can go backwards in time. No, not so much.
No, it's doing it.
Yep. Oh yeah.
I don't know how far back you can go, but it's doing it. There you go, right
The
there.
fifth?
That's where
There we go, the fifth.
that's the
Yep.
fire hose right on top of Southern California.
Oh yeah.
Here we go. I'd never tried going backwards before, so now I know. I can go backwards. On earth.nullschool.net. So that's
Yeah, I wish Windy would allow you to do that. This is at 250, so this is at like 30,
Oh,
34,000
actually, yeah,
feet
I
or
put it on
10
250 because
kilometers.
it had the better view of it. That's right. So, but you can see how you can see the same things showing up in both animations, and I thought the 250 gives you a better view of it. So that's right. I did put on the 250. Here's one of my favorite ones. I just got to move us. Here we go. The pivotal.
Look at that beautiful low up heading for Alaska.
Oh yeah.
I wish we'd get
Boom.
some of those here in Oregon.
We got some snow happening. Oh, Chris is going to show up. Cool. We got some snow happening in Quebec. That's nice. Nice big system happening out there. Really high pressure happening. Greenland, high pressure through most
Well,
of the continent.
that's pretty typical because cold air is denser than warm air.
Yeah.
And so when we get the really cold, like there's always a persistent high over Yellowstone. There's pretty typically a persistent high over like Banff and then over Greenland.
And here we go. Next. Here we go. Tuesday. Another sort of storm. Trying out there in the Pacific. Well, 3 of them. Yeah, that's beautiful, eh? So I always kind of like this animation. It just kind of gives you a large overview of, what could be happening the next week. That is great looking. Things seem still pretty dry in my local forecast, though, for the next 2 weeks, despite a bit of snow coming early next week.
Ooh, I have a map for
And you
that.
can
I
see
haven't
here the
pulled it
high
up yet.
pressure taking over, and BC kind of blocking any of that from coming in.
Yes, exactly. And the ridge of high pressure is really going to be instrumental in that up aloft because it's aiming the storm track. That split flow is aiming the storm track more towards Alaska, and a little. I think Yukon will get a little bit out of it too.
So the big story for me is that we don't have snow in British Columbia. Not enough. And when I look at forecasts, I don't see much more coming. That's kind of my
Nope.
to do at the beginning, the pre-show, because I don't, we got the viewers come on the pre-show. I like to give them the forecast stuff that they don't necessarily get. Well, we don't have always time for in our 1 hour recording. How you doing tonight, Chris? How you doing tonight, Hilding Donaldson?
Hi guys. I heard something about Brazil, so I figured I'd chime in. There were some very attractive women down there. So it is pretty much it's one of those things that seeing it is believing it. And unfortunately, I can look but not touch because of my obligations down there. So.
And now he can look but not touch because he's sitting at his kitchen table with his wife probably close to him.
Because of his obligations right now.
She vacated the room, of course. I think she thinks this whole thing is nonsense.
My wife is watching it. Oh, I guess she's not watching it right now. I think she had it up earlier, but she's like 2 meters from me.
Here's another big story that's come out today that maybe you guys want to share some insight on. A couple weeks ago, on one of my forecasts, we were talking about there was some warmer or some colder water upwelling off the coast of South America, off the west coast, and some talk that maybe the El Nino was going to end early. We might even come to a neutral state. And I remember saying in my video at the time, things have been going up and down so widely in the world the last couple of years, that it wouldn't surprise me at all if in 2024 we found ourselves back in La Nina. Of course, I'm not an expert in such things. That's just me kind of observing the trend of things being woof, 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 increasingly.
So what's really remarkable about this is not that we're switching to La Nina because there are plenty of examples of El Ninos that only lasted one winter season and then switching over. But what's really remarkable is we're going from a very, very strong El Nino, and then we're going to have a rapid collapse. And so we'll be Enso neutral by like June, I think. And then we're heading straight into La Nina. So that switch isn't unusual, but for how strong the El Nino is, I think it's pretty unusual.
It's a real Bam, bam, bam.
I was just going to chime in here. I was looking at some research that was saying that there's signs that we may see more frequent El Ninos and La Ninas due to climate change and fewer neutral years. And obviously, hearing that, you're going to get both extremes more often if we see that. Both, what we're seeing this year and also, potentially from the La Nina side. So it's going to continue to wreak havoc over, much of the mid latitudes, But I thought that was interesting, and it'd be interesting to kind of hear more about why that is. That some of these researchers are thinking that the INSO is going to be kind of supercharged in a world of runaway climate change. So,
Well, in my mind, when you make the ocean that much warmer, so you have all this more storm activity, all this more. I just think it's going to force that upwelling to happen. Like I don't know much about the ocean personally, so I'm guessing, right? But it just you keep ratcheting up that heat. What's the reaction going to be? Going to speed up that process?
yeah, I mean, you definitely have more than one process at play because we're not talking a dominant El Nino scenario where we see an El Nino that may last like five or 10 years or something like that, where you have a persistent thing. I think you're going to get just these stronger circulations in place. So you're going to, it remains to be seen. I think another side of this coin is, when we see the La Nina next year, this is kind of almost like a verdict on climate change, because are we going to actually see a significantly cooler winter, or, significantly cooler year globally, or are we going to see probably the second warmest year on record after this year, with that La Nina? So, that's kind of another thing that's out there. Have we reached a tipping point where even a La Nina can only get us to the second warmest rather than getting us to like closer to normal,
Well, they're sort of like the balancing act of each other, right? One's correcting the other.
Sure, yeah.
Are you able to see my screen here?
When one gets more extreme, then the correction has to become more extreme. That's just my imagination speaking again.
I think that's a pretty good synopsis, yeah.
Cannot see your screen yet, Mark.
Oh, weird. It says that I am sharing, so. Well, I just had the model data. I'll give it a try again. Imogen's on mute.
Good evening, Imogen. Yes, just popped in while we're having our serious conversation we're having.
Well, it doesn't want me to share my screen again, so I guess I won't show it. But we are currently, in December, so El Nino just refers to sea surface temperatures in the near the equator in the Pacific being above average. And
I put you on co-host. Maybe that'll help.
Well, I think it's just my computer or my mouse or something.
Okay.
But
carry on.
So let's see. So we were at 2 degrees Celsius above average for the sea surface temperatures in the equator region of the Pacific. That's a pretty strong El Nino. And the model guidance, the average model guidance, has us at like minus 0.7 degrees Celsius for that same region by August. And so we're going to have a 2.7 degree C swing in the temperature anomaly. But like Chris was talking about, what Chris was talking about with stuff swinging, this is, I don't know how well the Arctic translates to the tropics, but what we're seeing is with the Arctic warming, the temperature gradient between the Arctic and the mid latitudes is not as strong. So the jet stream is becoming more erratic. We're seeing more waves in it instead of it being straighter. And that is causing more Arctic outbreaks into the mid latitudes, like the Canadian provinces and the northern tier of the United States. And so it kind of feels wrong to say, but one could expect more severe winter outbreaks as well as more severe summer heat waves because that temperature gradient in the Arctic is becoming less.
And just as an observer, I've seen this in my lifetime. Visibly. Here we go. Here's what people say. That's an awful lot of paid arsonists. Climate change is fake. The government is causing the heat. The fires were all caused by paid arsonists. The fires were all caused by paid. The government is doing it. It's not happening.
How do I get in on this
Can't
money?
hear
How do I
you.
get in on this money?
I can't hear you. I got fingers in my ears. That it won't happen to me. Am I not fucking right?
Yeah, I wish I could open up my credit union balance here and see it being dumped in from George Soros and Joe Biden and all this stuff, because down here everybody likes to think that the whole world is centered on the US too. Like, yeah, the whole world is conforming to US political whims, which, I mean, obviously there's something to be said about that, but nope, just pulled up my bank account here, and nope, there's nothing from, well, there is actually something from the federal government because my tax return came in today.
That cool, crisp dollar bills.
Yep. But that's not for touting the company line.
I've been like trying to visualize all these ways to explain climate change to people, you know, but I keep kind of coming back to like, well, if you don't already know by now, you're probably just an asshole. Check this out. Here's a thought experiment. I'm going to turn this water into gas. Right here. Right, see what I just did? Turn that water into gas. Now, you all know from being in your sauna, when you put water on the rocks, the steam, the gaseous state of the water, transports heat and captures heat. Water is a greenhouse gas. It's so hard to imagine that carbon dioxide can do the same thing.
And methane, and the list goes on.
Yeah.
Well, and people don't really understand a concept called residence time. So if you understand, you got residence time in lakes where, water stays in a particular lake on average a certain number of days, months, or years. It's the same thing with carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. It stays in the atmosphere for about 200 years on average before either, most of the time, carbon dioxide is essentially enters the ocean and, acidifies the ocean in the form of carbolic acid. So that's detrimental for, sea life and, anything with a shell. Which needs a calcium carbonate solution in order to produce its shell. And with methane, you also have a residence time, albeit a little bit shorter. But also methane is 4,000 times more stronger than carbon dioxide in terms of global warming.
Well, here's the scary part that, really makes me almost want to do this is that the methane release that's happening now, from permafrost, from decaying matter, swamps and whatnot, it's out of control, and it's going to get worse. And
think about
we are spiraling. We are spiraling out of control. I want to just go back to about the El Nino to La Nina flip thing that how my imagination so heat chases cold and cold chases heat. And that's kind of how my imagination sees these things. When the colder something gets, the more likely it is that the heat's going to chase in behind it. The hotter something gets, the more likely that the cold is going to chase in behind it. It's like, do you see what I'm saying? And I think about that in terms of like just the ocean itself. You get massive warm water, it moves out from below. Chasing it is going to be the cold water.
Yeah. You want to know what's going to happen in the ocean, especially in the tropical Pacific. You look at the temperature with depth, and you can see El Nino forms first below the surface, and then the warmer waters end up influencing the surface over time. But La Nina is the same way. You start to see that upwelling first along the coast of South America, but it comes up from the depth, and for the fishermen and stuff off Peru, the La Nina is their whole economy, because these people, it brings the fish, it brings their livelihood. So from that perspective, La Nina is a great thing for them. Obviously, the disruption that we caused by La Nina is in some ways comparable to El Nino. I mean, they're both very two ends of the same phenomenon. So
had this will sound like a funny question, and it is kind of a funny question to us, but I said I'd answer it, and I think it's good that they asked the question. That's why. So I don't want to laugh at them. I just got to find the question here. Okay. Not sure if you guys take questions, but if so, can you tackle the difference between an atmospheric river, a regular river, and a water spout? Thanks.
Ooh, that's a fun one.
Yeah, and then you just see how the wording can, mess with people's imaginations, right?
Well, I can take that if nobody wants to.
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna check in, make sure Frankie's ready to go. Well, you do that.
Okay, so an atmospheric river, kind of what we're looking at, is in the air. The jet stream will typically be oriented in a way to pull just a lot of humidity from a certain region, and the jet stream is narrow, and so it will, well, narrow, in a relative sense with the atmosphere or whatnot. But we're talking something on the order of like, say, 200 to 500 kilometers wide. And so the jet stream will be oriented in a similar way for a couple of days. And so, like where I live in Oregon, we will have what we call pineapple expresses, which are a type of atmospheric river where the jet stream will be oriented along a cold front that doesn't really move a whole lot. And so that plume of moisture goes from Hawaii straight up to where I live in Oregon for 24 hours to maybe 3 days at a time. And like I said, it's 200 to 500 kilometers wide. A regular river, is on the ground. It's liquid water, and it's coming out of the mountains or out of some spring or whatever. And you can think of the atmospheric river kind of like that. The water goes from the warm point to the cooler point, but along a specific path. But atmospheric rivers are, of course, transient. They don't last as long as normal rivers. And the water spouts are tornadoes over the water.
Okay, we got Frankie here. So general flow of the show, we go Frankie the top of the show. Then we go with our Western Canada, Brandon Hauk. And then we'll take it from there, Mark and Chris. So, and Hilding, we haven't even talked to him, and Imogen, we haven't talked to her yet. So we'll try to get everyone to ask questions as well when it's time. Frankie, are you there? Frankie loves questions. Asking questions of each other is great. The less questions I ask, the better. Okay. Are you ready to go, Frankie? Hey, Frankie, you there? I see him, but I don't know if he can hear us yet. Frankie McDonald, are you there?
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing.
There we go. Frankie's here. Okay. You're ready. I'm ready.
And I bought a mini desktop PC.
Excellent. Okay.
I just said put it in the right settings.
Brand new computer for Frankie. Record to the cloud. Good morning, Prince George. Good afternoon, Winnipeg. Hello, Kamloops and Rogers TV viewers on Vancouver Island. This is the Comedeorological Report. I am Joey Only. This is your show about how much the weather sucks in Canada and beyond. We are becoming more international by the week. Of course we are, because the weather knows no borders and no boundaries. Yes, comedy plus meteorology. Your show about how much the weather sucks in Canada. You're hearing us on CFR 88.7 FM in Prince George, CKUW 95.9 in Winnipeg, and CFBX 92.5 Kamloops, plus Rogers Television in Vancouver Island. I'm here with my panel of meteorologists, including Frankie McDonald, the star of the show, the man out there in Sydney, Nova Scotia. We'll be talking with him in 1 minute's time. We've also got, of course, Brandon Hauk from the radio stations of Brooks, Alberta, and beyond. He's the radio man, weatherman of Western Canada himself. He's wonderful. He's back, as always, every week with Western Canada weather. And we got meteorologist Chris Calais and Mark Ingalls here with us again from down in Portland. Imogen Cookie-Bailey, our associate producers down in Victoria. And Hilding Donaldson, the cowboy, is out in Grassy Plains. I think that's everybody. Wow, let's go. Frankie McDonald, how you doing so far, buddy?
I'm doing great so far. Sydney, Nova Scotia still under state of emergency. They're clearing the snow away and things like this.
Yes, how much snow did you get in Sydney this week, Frankie?
150 to 160 centimeters of snow. I took a video of myself earlier in the week.
Okay, I'll cue that up. Tell us more, Frankie.
That means there was a lot of snow in Sydney, Nova Scotia. It was really, really bad.
What did
It
you
was
do?
mighty bad in Sydney, Nova Scotia right now. And it brought so much snow. It's a multi-day snow event, started on Friday evening, continued through Saturday and the Sunday. It was really bad. In my hometown of Sydney, Nova Scotia, Canada, it was so bad. Causing so much snow. 150 centimeters of snow falling in 3 days. It was mighty bad. That was my latest video on my YouTube channel. It was really, really bad. That was one of the biggest snowstorms since 1917 in my hometown city, Nova Scotia. Los Angeles had so much rain because atmospheric river. Los Angeles had the most of the rain to anywhere else in California. It was mighty bad. Brought so much rain, caused mudslides, landslides in Los Angeles, California, surrounding areas. It was mighty bad there. Caused some flood and things like this. I was watching extreme meteorologist Reed Timmer on Sunday online. He was traveling to west of Los Angeles, things like this. He headed to Los Angeles, things like this, chasing a storm. Reed Timmer was in Los Angeles. It was really bad. So much fires going on in Chile lately. Then it got some stormy weather headed for Texas and Oklahoma and things like this in central states. And it's going to bring lots of cold weather all across Manitoba, Saskatchewan next week. Then it got some really cold weather heading back to Alberta once again.
Even
Then
Joe
it got
Stover's
some-
showing up, Frankie.
What?
Even Joe Stover's showing up.
Yes.
Howdy.
What else is going on in the world, Frankie?
And did you hear about this down South America? A lot of fires burning in Chile right now near Santiago, Chile. A lot of thunderstorms and rain going on in Central America and Brazil and South America, like Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, and lots of thunderstorms and rain going on in eastern Peru right now. And western Peru is dry. And Chile, northern Chile is really, really, really dry right now. And blowing sand and desert as of right now. Forecasts all across Europe. Lots of rain going on in England and snow up in northern Scotland and things like this. There's another big storm over in heading towards Europe as well. And a lot of rain going on in Spain this weekend coming. So much rain hitting in part of Spain. It's hitting Morocco too. And then it got some cold air hitting for Spain as well, in Portugal, Morocco, and Algeria. There's a lot of rain going on in Croatia, Bosnia, and Albania, parts of Greece. It's headed towards Turkey. Lots of snow going on in Finland, Sweden, Norway, and things like this. And Sochi, Russia's mild and normal temperatures. And it gets some brief mild air in Moscow, Russia, then cold air fights back again. And up around places in Japan. It's really cold in Tokyo, Japan. It's snow in Sapporo, Hokkaido, Japan. And South Korea is really cold. And so is North Korea, Vladivostok, Russia. Siberia is extremely cold right now. Once again, in the month of March, Siberia will gradually warm up like Yakutsk. And places like in China, like Wuhan, China, and it's getting cold air, warm air fighting each other. Beijing, China, right now. Cold air, warm air fighting each other in China. Lots of rain, thunderstorms going on. Indonesia right now, they're getting a little bit of rain in the Philippines. It's dry season in Thailand right now. Vietnam, Laos. It's really hot and dry in Thailand. And Indonesia's in the rainy season, bringing a lot of thunderstorms and rain in Indonesia right now. That's what Julia, the base guy show, is at right now. And over in Indian Ocean, it's really dry in Sri Lanka. Then it gets a little bit of rain and thunderstorms hitting. Then it got a cyclone developing. It's in the Indian Ocean. It's a powerful cyclone. They have to watch container ships around that area have to monitor that situation. And up around South Africa, lots of rain, thunderstorms going on. La Reunion and Mauritius Islands and Mozambique and Madagascar. And lots of rain, thunderstorms going on in Zimbabwe, Zambia, Southern Congo, and Angola, and all those places right now. In Southwest Pacific, there's lots of rain and thunderstorms going on in Northern Australia. Then it got some rain fighting each other and dry, warm air, cold air fighting each other in New Zealand because their fall starts on March 19th. Their autumn starts.
Anyone have questions for Frankie McDonald this week?
As for Antarctica, and I've seen a latest comment from Mike Post of Antarctica. He's going back to McMurdo Station next week. He got to fly to New Zealand. He got to go back to From the United States, you got to fly to New Zealand. Then you got to fly to McMurdo Station. And the Arctic is still 24-hour darkness. It start gradually, daylight starting to gradually come up in the Arctic as of right now.
I have a question for Frankie.
Hey, Joe Stover. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you. My question for Frankie is, how much snow did you guys get in Cape Breton, and did you have to shovel any of it?
Yes, quite a bit of it. 150 centimeters of snow. And Los Angeles had so much rain as well.
Frankie had the storm of the century there, didn't he?
Yeah.
Should we watch your video, Frankie?
Yes.
Okay, this is Frankie's latest video. Two of his latest video. First is the one before the snowstorm, and then the one right after. Here you go, everybody.
This is Frankie McDowell, my own TV station live in Sydney, Nova Scotia. Major snowstorms head towards Nova Scotia on Monday, January 29th, 2024. It's going to bring up to 6 to 12 inches of snow, which is 15 to 25 centimeters of snow, especially in Halifax, Shelburne, Yarmouth, Digby, Wolfville, Kentville, and Amherst, and those places in Toronto, including Sydney and Cape Breton Island. It's going to bring a lot of snow. Winds are going to be pretty strong. It's going to cause blowing, drifting snow, reduced visibility, dangerous and treacherous drive conditions, especially on 104 Trans-Canada Highway and Highway 102, heading towards Halifax from Toronto, Nova Scotia. It's going to bring a lot of snow. Winds are going to be pretty strong. It's going to cause snow drifts, blowing, drifting snow, especially in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, Yarmouth, Shelburne, Lunenburg, Liverpool, Chester, Bridgewater, and all those places. It's going to bring a lot of snow. Winds are going to be pretty strong. And streets, roads, highways, and Trans-Canada Highway will be snow covered, including PEI ferries going to be interrupted in. It's going to bring a lot of snow drifts on the Confederation Bridge. From New Brunswick to PEI, it's going to affect Calais, Maine. It's going to affect Portland, Maine, and the coast areas of the state of Maine, and Lewiston, Maine, and all those places as well. It's going to hit Fredericton, New Brunswick, Moncton, New Brunswick, St. John, New Brunswick, St. Stephen, New Brunswick. It's going to bring a lot of snow in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, including Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, Summerside, Prince Edward Island, Cavendish, Prince Edward Island, Borden, Prince Edward Island, and the surrounding areas as well. People in Nova Scotia, be prepared. Have your winter boots ready, winter jackets ready, hats and gloves, scarf and ski pants is ready. Order your pizzas and order your Chinese food. Buy cases of Pepsi, buy cases to Coke. Do your grocery shopping. Don't wait till the last minute. Do it right now. Make sure you have your smartphone, cell phone, laptop, tablet charge. Have your 3G, 4G, 5G, and LTE ready as well. When you drive a car, take your time, drive your car, slow down, so we don't get in car accidents. We go for a walk. Be very careful walking to the adults slip and fall. Make sure if your furnace is a heat pump's ready. Turn on your furnace heat pumps to keep those warm. Drink lots of green tea, white tea, red tea. Drink lots of green tea, keep it warm. Have your extra blankets ready, keep it warm as well. Make sure if your shovel, snow scoop, snowblowers, snow plow, salt trucks ready as well. If you have anybody live in Nova Scotia, be prepared for a major snowstorm on Monday, January 29, 2024. Take care, stay safe. Don't kick on major snowstorm. Stay warm, be safe.
So that was, you can see there wasn't much snow
Hey
there.
everybody, it's Frank McDowell, Sydney, Nova Scotia, as 150 centimeters of snow on the ground. It was really bad. It snow started on Friday evening, lasted through Saturday and Sunday. It was a 2-day blizzard conditions had to happen in Sydney, Nova Scotia on Saturday, and the Sunday started on Friday night. And Sydney, Nova Scotia is under state of emergency. As of right now, I'm doing great so far. Things are going great. It's confirmed Sydney, Nova Scotia is under state of emergency. Plows around the road, plowing the streets, and things like this. It was really bad. They got snow plows currently plowing the streets. Right now, they're trying their best in my hometown, Sydney, Nova Scotia. It was so much snow that happened in my hometown. See you soon. I'm Frank McDowell. What about my Los Angeles forecast?
Okay, we
Big
can come back.
rainstorm on February 3rd.
We can come back to that, Frankie. Anyone else got questions for Frankie?
Frankie, what kind of
You're
tea
very
do you
hard.
drink? You recommended stocking up on tea. What kind of tea do you drink?
Green tea.
Green tea? There's so many green teas. What kind of green tea? What's a good one?
And I just sent the Community Meteorological Weather Report, my Los Angeles forecast about the big rainstorm. I got it right.
Okay, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. If there's no other questions for Frankie, Brandon Hauk, time for the Brandon Hauk report. Out there, you're
Yo!
playing hockey. You're playing hockey in Brooks, Alberta again.
Oh, I'm not playing hockey. No, the Brooks Bandits are.
And Brooks, Alberta is now in British Columbia. Welcome to the province. We're glad to
Oh,
have you.
good,
Please don't,
good to be here.
for our generous acceptance of your team into our hockey league, we ask that you take it a little bit easy on us.
Oh, we'll try.
Like what league in its right mind wants the Brooks Bandits in it?
I don't know.
Like it's like you're just gonna get yourselves pummeled.
We'll
Okay,
see.
Brandon.
Yes. Okay. So we've got we have an interesting weather this week, no doubt about that. And we've had a pretty good blast of snow last weekend, and after a almost record-breaking 2 days of breaking records last week, we got 13 centimeters of snow on Saturday. It was a really pretty actually Sunday. Yes, that was Sunday. So 13 centimeters of snow Sunday. Really good snow event. And some areas in the southwestern corner of the province picked up higher amounts, easily 20, 30 centimeters. So not as much as Sydney, Nova Scotia, but we will take it here. No doubt about that. And we've had the fog, we've had the mist, we've had freezing drizzle the last number of days. And that's been the case again today. And it's getting kind of old now, but now that's going to change because we have now that Colorado low that we were mentioning earlier. That is pushing into that pushed into Saskatchewan. Highway 1 was closed today from Swift Current to Parkbag, Saskatchewan, due to the freezing drizzle and the snow on top. So that's been that was a little wild earlier today. And in southern Manitoba, they had the period of freezing rain in Winnipeg earlier. That changed over to snow this evening. And now that system's continuing to push its way through Manitoba. And they've also seen a whole lot of fog and drizzle and gross weather for the last week. I think Winnipeg's been in a fog advisory for 5 days in a row in this past week. So today's the first day they were not in a fog advisory because now that Colorado low moved in, that kind of got the atmosphere moving once again. So yeah, and now we've got this system that's sneaking through this evening that's going to bring a little blast of snow, maybe about 2-ish centimeters of snow. Yeah, about 2-ish, 2 to 4 centimeters of snow tonight. And then as we move through the weekend here, we're going to see the sun return. We'll see a bit of a westerly flow with the next Pacific system moving on to the BC coast there. That will bring us some milder air for a couple of days, but not too mild, so it won't be near record-breaking temperatures. And then we'll see another round of snow probably in the next week, probably say Monday into Tuesday-ish for parts of central and southern Alberta, and that could mean another blast of some cooler air. So it doesn't look like we'll get too cold, doesn't look like we'll get too mild, but I guess we'll be just right for the month of February.
Excellent. Anyone got questions for Brandon Hauk? Nobody. Joe Stover, we haven't seen you in a while. How's Churchill, Manitoba going right now? What are you doing? Have you been refueling aircraft? You up there?
Yeah, doing a bit of that. Mostly getting ready for hosting people to come see the Northern Lights. So our Northern Light season, of course, up here is supposed to be during the coldest months of the year. And because when it's really cold, there's less precipitation or, less cloud cover, less precipitation, and clouds are the natural enemy of the Northern Lights. But as most folks across the country have seen, it's been a little more mild than usual. Peaks and valleys, of course, but it's been pretty tough I'll get out of it, kitty. Yeah, good kitty. So it's been far more cloudy than normal. So we're getting folks up here to check out the lights, and it's been a little hit or miss because, around this time of year, it should be, minus 25 and lower usually. And we've been anywhere between, minus 20 and, it was +2 last week. And it's bananas, and, El Nino and all of that, and climate change and all of that. So it's been a little goofy, but forecast calls for a bit of cold over the next week at least, so that's good. Tom Cochran's here tomorrow. That's kind of
Oh.
cool. Yeah, our Winterruption Churchill is happening this weekend, so we're getting some cool musical acts. Boy Golden's going to be here as well, which I'm really looking forward to. And yeah,
It's too bad people in Churchill can't relate to his songs. He'd be like, "Life is a highway," and they'd be like, "What's that?"
yeah.
There is active aurora expected on February 10th, and there's a little bit going on tonight, but nothing spectacular right now up above
Yeah,
you, Joe.
nothing too crazy, but it is a clear sky, and that's kind of exactly what we want. Can't stay too long myself. You don't mind if I kind of do a little CKUW pitch, do you?
I was really hoping you would, because Fund Drive is coming up for CKUW.
Correct. And at the time of this airing, which is on Mondays at noon on CKUW, we are right in the middle of the 2024 Fund Drive. So as Joey and everybody else here knows, Campus Community Radio is where you're going to find the Comedeorological Report. You know, you're not going to find it on, Powered 98 or whatever else. The Bear 108. The Bear. No. So
or on Fox News.
That's it. Yeah, don't get us started, right? So yeah, Campus Community Radio, like CKUW and the other stations that air this program, a big part of them being able to do their job is through listener support. And if you're listening on the air right now, it's probably not by mistake. You know, you're tuned in because you want to listen to this type of programming. And so
well, we know the meteorology department of the school is all addicted to our show, right?
Absolutely they are. So if you head over to ckuw.ca, you can kind of see what how you'll be able to support us at the station. Or you know what, they got people on the phones. You got questions, there's people on the phones. So if you're in Winnipeg and you're listening right now, 204-774-6877, they're ready to talk to you. They're ready to talk to you, and there's no pressure, anything like that. It's but if you want to keep hearing shows like this incredible show that Joey and Frankie have, plus their fantastic array of guests and regulars and stuff like that. We know if you're listening to this program, there's a reason you're listening to the program. Help keep shows like this on the air. ckuw.ca or 204-774-6877.
And that goes for the other stations as well that maybe not having their fund drives right now. But if you're in Prince George, hey, support CFUR. Hey, if you're in Kamloops. And if you're watching us on YouTube or on Rogers TV, maybe ask your local campus station, say, how come you don't have the Comedeorological Report on your show? Thank you, Joe. Mark Inglis, I know he's got quite a bit to talk about, including talking about Manitoba. So if he's still around...
Hello.
Mark. Hey, Mark. How's it going?
Hey,
Mark.
Yes, I want to lead off with some hockey stats for everyone. I grew up in WHL land, and the Portland Winterhawks are currently top of the standings for the Western Conference. Of course, my team's the Tri-City Americans, and they are doing horribly this year. Also, my 3-year-old wants to come say hello, so here she is. For the radio listeners, I have a 3-year-old on my lap now. So it's been a week, not so much here in Oregon. We've just had some light rain and some clouds in between. California, of course, it rained a ton. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on California, but parts of California received well over 800% of what they would expect for this time of year over the last week. That line was right along like Los Angeles to Death Valley. So, of course, it's nice to get some precipitation in the desert. I think the lake is present at Death Valley, but you can't go see it because the roads are closed. Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles has already reached 88% of their annual average precipitation, and there was a tornado to the west of Los Angeles somewhere. I don't remember the name of the town. Up in British Columbia, The snowpack, like has been said multiple times over the last several weeks, the snowpack is not great. I got a map here, but I can't figure out how to share it. So looks like especially lower mainland is well below average. We're talking 50% or lower compared to normal for this time of year. The Rockies are doing a little bit better, but still well below average, right around 50 to 75%. It's right around normal up towards the Peace River, or I think that's the Peace River up there. Yeah, Peace River and mountains surrounding it. That's a little bit closer to normal, so that's a little bit nice with that big reservoir up there that BC Hydro uses for power generation. It looks like western coast of the continent is going to be drier than average, but I think still some showers, especially along the coast. The storm track that was aimed at California is now going to be aiming at. Oh, you see my daughter here telling my wife to be quiet, even though she's not saying anything. So it looks like the storm track's going to be aimed at the Sierra Madre in Sinaloa and Durango states of Mexico. That's really great because they have a significant drought going on there. It's been, I think, several years now that that's been ongoing in the prairies over the weekend and into the start of next week, or the start of this week if you're listening in Winnipeg on Monday. It looks like they'll be above average for temperatures, not as extreme as last time we chatted. But there is some hope. Look, he's waving at you. There is some hope because it looks like the models are favoring a large low, upper level low dropping out from the Arctic across the Hudson Bay. That'll bring some cooler weather to the prairies, but the modeling is favoring the real extreme cold being more towards Ontario, Quebec, and the Maritimes. So Frankie might get a little bit of that. We'll see. That's still like a week and a half out or so. And then the volcano in Iceland, southwest of Reykjavik, started erupting again on the 8th. That was pretty exciting. This eruption is the third in a series that started in December. The eruption this time is not close to the town. Of course, last month, 3 homes were destroyed by lava flows. This one did cut off a water line, though, a hot water line that is used for steam heat, including at the international airport at Keflavik. The airport is still operating, but without heat, evidently. Outside of Alaska, in Canada and the United States, there aren't any volcanoes expected to erupt soon, but the most recent eruption in Canada was about 350 years ago. That was in northern British Columbia at a cone that I am not comfortable pronouncing because I do not do well with First Nations names up there, but it destroyed 3 First Nations villages, which was, of course, unfortunate. So, if you live on the western margin of the continent, you're in volcano country, but unless you're on a little island in Alaska, you're doing okay for right now. And that's pretty much all I have other than go Tri-City Americans. Hopefully they can finish out the season a little bit better. And that's it.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Mark. Who wants to go next? Unless anyone's got questions for Mark.
I was just going to mention to Mark, don't be shy. Tell us about your Lord of the Rings EDM concert you went to last Saturday.
Oh,
yeah. Hold on. Did I hear that right? Lord of
Yes.
the Rings EDM.
Yes.
Oh,
So, like,
Elijah
in December, I saw online that Elijah Wood, who played Frodo in Lord of the Rings, was going to be playing at one of the nightclubs here in Portland. And I've never been to a concert before, but I thought that would be a good time to give it a go. So I went, and like people were dressed up in costumes. I did not dress up because I felt like in a nightclub it would probably be pretty hot, and so the only thing I'd want to dress up as Golem, and I didn't want to wait outside in line with the loincloth. So I went. It was great. The Elijah Wood actually didn't play any Lord of the Rings tunes, though. The person before him, I think Nora Van Eken is her name, and she did. But he was spinning 80s and 90s tunes with his buddy Zach. Well, together they're Wooden Wisdom, but they were spinning 80s and 90s tunes on 45s. So that was pretty fun.
That is the most hipster thing I've heard all day. Elijah was
Also-
like DJing on actual 45s.
Also, Portland must be the epicenter of ugly dudes landing crazy hot women, because that was just the case for every couple I saw at the nightclub.
That is a fantastic commentary, and that hits a little close to here. So
Now, in my opinion, that's everywhere. Chris Calais, is this true? Is everything that Mark said true?
Yeah, I mean, he sent me some videos, so I do have evidence of his assertions. But he definitely had the better weekend. I was stuck going to Boise to take care of a family matter, which unfortunately killed my weekend. But it's been a great week at work. Joey, we sent you over. We linked you up to AWIPS there. How are you liking that?
I do like the cave system. It's quite cool.
Yep,
Yes.
yep.
So
That's
I've
what I'm-
already begun to play with it a little bit in my forecasting videos, right? The
Yep.
problem is it's very slow, and it's doesn't have enough of Canada in it. I would like to see more of the Pacific. That would be really sweet as well.
Well, you know, I
But-
think I think Environment Canada probably uses their own system. Probably not made by Raytheon. You know,
And probably a little
mostly
bit
weather
faster.
satellites. So, anyways, we've seen a lot of good use in our job, and it's great to have the same tools that the government folks have, at least.
what I really like is how you can layer things,
Yep. Yep.
and multiples of things, right? So you could, I could put fire weather on, and I could put precipitation outlooks, and I could do
Mhm.
multiples of things at once and see how they're interacting. I think that's very cool.
Well, as we figure out more
Appreciate
cool
that.
things to do
And
with it on our end,
anything that you got like that you want to send me to help me become a better weather guy,
sure.
thank you very
Well,
much.
we've been experimenting with it this week, and we're already learning some new stuff. So we'll send it your way as we learn more stuff. So
I would hope Canada has a similar sort of version. Anything else you got for weather, Chris?
like Mark talked about, quite the arc storm. Well, not a true arc storm, but quite an arc storm into Southern California, with 88% of normal annual precip in Los Angeles over the past week. For the annual total, that's pretty remarkable. I mean, I was telling Mark, that's like Portland getting about 32 inches of rain in the month of January, which is about double what we've seen on record for the month of January. So prolific flooding. I'm guessing up in those hills, there's massive amounts of just mudslides, et cetera, going on. Sometimes it's hard to feel sorry for people in Malibu when their house gets either burned down or taken down by a mudslide, because they're rich, and the eat the rich mentality is strong with us, and but as meteorologists, we also can't help to not think about the loss of life among the animals and the less fortunate in those situations. So but overall, looking at Mark alluded to this, but looking at over the next week in the lower 48, it's a pretty benign pattern also up in much of Canada. It's finally starting to get a little bit more like late winter. I feel like here in Portland we're turning the corner into what I would call very early spring at this point. Tends to happen sometime in February. Usually, if I don't see anything exciting on the models by mid-February, I kind of write the rest of the winter season off, because our window for lowland snow in Portland really closes pretty fast once you get into March. Aside from, was it last year when we saw snow in mid-April? But that's the exception. Like one in 100 years.
We had that 2 years in a row, actually. We had that in 22 and 23.
Well, I'm still going to maintain that's the exception, because before that it hadn't happened. So, but
we got a little bit of snow moving through BC at the start of next work week, but nothing crazy. It doesn't look like. Doesn't look like in the next 2 weeks anything crazy. This can be the time of year that we really pack on the snow here in the mountains.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the forecast, and we're comparing we're kind of right at the same place that we were at 2015-16. We're at the all-time low. We're at the same place on the graph, except when you look at the graph for what happened for the rest of February that year, and you look at what we're expecting for the rest of February this year, they're two different stories so far. I mean, a lot can change in British Columbia, and often does. But I'm looking at the drought situation, I'm looking at the fire situation, I'm looking at, and all these factors. Like the quicker we lose the snow, the faster the province warms up. It's like you try to imagine how much the snowpack just adds to that cooling effect of the province on a whole, right? And it is significant. Here in Wells, once we lose that bit of snow, it doesn't matter how warm the days are. Before that, it can be the really warm days before and after. But when we have that snow, we still end up having quite humid air, and the nights are very cold. Because
well, your biggest factor here is the albedo from the snow. Snow is extremely white, so you reflect like 98% of the sunlight back into the space. And when you lose that, it will warm up. It doesn't matter if everything else is the same in the system. It's the same thing you see with the loss of sea ice in the Arctic. You see more warming of the water because you don't have that ice cover reflecting that sunlight back into space. Then with that water being warmer, you're less likely to form ice in the fall because it's going to take longer to form ice in the fall because you're starting from a warmer place. So
when I look at our fire forecast and our farmer forecast for BC so far, it looks like disaster coming this year. We haven't talked to the farmer himself, Hilding. We haven't talked to Imogen down in Victoria. Who wants to go?
Hilding, you're on mute.
Hilding, you have to unmute.
There we go.
You're unmuted.
Speaking of farmers and moisture, Hilding, talk to us, cowboy.
Yeah, looking at what happened last year, this week, I think it was this week or next week last year that they had blizzard that blew 4 feet of snow into our valley. There's not enough snow to blow this year. I mean, we did have 18 inches of snow and it all melted away down to about 4 inches of crusty stuff, and that's what we've got. We got 2 centimeters this week, and I'm like, please, can't we get more? Like, we're further into debt for snow this year than we were last year at this time. And we had a drought last summer. What's going to happen this summer?
It's very scary. And even here at, I believe Mark Chris sent me the graphic this week, and we were looking also at on Ontario Weather Wilderness Watchers. Gina Birchwater was sharing some graphs that he had, where we're at 57% of the snow on Yanks Peak here. So if you're sitting there in Prince George, you're thinking, hey, we're going to go snowmobiling this weekend. Where we're going to go skiing? Well, there's no snow on Troll Ski Hill right now. And we got the BC Winter Games coming there in a matter of weeks to perhaps when we can't even have Winter Games in the BC mountains. That's crazy. A lot can change. I know with the Winter Olympics in 2010, a lot changed when they're looking at the snowpack at this time going, oh, what's going to happen? But then like 5 meters of snow came after that. Well, we're not seeing that in the forecast right now.
And hurricane season starts on June 1st.
It does. Imogen, how you doing? What's going on in Victoria? What's going on with you?
Well, it's standard Victoria boring weather. We're going to have lows of 3, highs of 10. That's our February. Everyone else is building snow dudes. We're not. I was literally in a hot tub at the beach last night, walking around because it was comfortable enough to do that. Because that's the weather here. So that's Victoria. Not much to say. It's damp. It's sort of cold-ish, but still somehow beach weather, Canada style.
And Imogen, last week I did a forecast for Los Angeles about heavy rain. I just sent it to Joey only Facebook Messenger.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'll pull that up in a minute here. I'll pull that up in a minute for sure. Who's got some weird weather news? Who's got some weird news? Who's got something while I find the next Frankie video? We will watch Frankie's video. Why
That's where
not?
Trevor from Trevor's Happy Hour lives.
What Trevor's Happy Hour do?
Trevor's Happy Hour lives in Riverside, California, outside Los Angeles. He had a ton of rain.
Well, that's good.
He had a ton of rain causing intensive mudslides, landslides in Los Angeles.
Speaking of wild things that happened this week, I guess a truck got blown over, and it was full of Dr. Pepper and 7-Up, littered all over the highway in Nevada.
Brooks? In Nevada.
In Nevada. This truck's probably heading for the Super Bowl this weekend with all the Dr. Pepper.
I'd say it's heading for the mechanic now.
Yes, that's where it's going next. The mechanic.
I'll take all the Dr. Pepper. That's my favorite soda.
You had a train derailment though in Brooks, an actual
Yep, we
train derailment.
had a train derailment with 17 to 30 cars. Got well, they all ended up off the tracks, and I was probably one of the first people to report on it. So that's the other thing that happened this weekend. And what's this other study I found this weekend? Hold on, I'm trying to find it here. This is pretty interesting. So a real life Inception headband lets you control your dreams. So that's pretty incredible. I saw that earlier this week.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want the Elon Musk brain chip so that I can be charged $5.99 to sleep.
To sleep.
Charged $5.99 to see ads in your sleep.
Yeah. To not see ads, it's 10.
If we're gonna follow the Jeff Bezos business model, then yes.
So along the lines of this, I did read an interesting article this week about I think it was in Business Insider or Wired, but anyways, they were saying how people would be able to essentially work in their sleep, and I was like, who in the heck wants to work for the man during the one time a day or one time a night that they get to themselves, their precious sleep.
I do.
But if
I do.
I do because I'll go to work. I'll go to work and I'll sleep and say, man, I'm working.
Yeah, there you go.
This is late stage capitalism meets Ready Player One.
This is beyond end stage capitalism now. There's got to be another word for it. This is
it's called
cyberpunk capitalism. This is cyberpunk capitalism.
This is the vampires.
This is cyberpunk dystopian capitalism.
The vampires are trying to take over your brain. Okay, should we watch Frankie's video?
Yes.
Okay, Frankie says yes. That's all I need to hear. Frankie, he nailed it.
This is Frankie McDonald, my own TV station, live in Sydney, Nova Scotia. Heavy rains head towards Los Angeles, California on Thursday, February 1st, 2024. It's going to bring up to a lot of rain. And it's going to bring a lot of puddles in the streets, roads, highways, and freeways, and interstate highways in Los Angeles and its surrounding areas, including Long Beach, California, Glendale, California, Burbank, California, including Hollywood, California, Riverside, California, Corona, California, Anaheim, California, Orange County, California, Victorville, California. It's going to bring a lot of rain. It's going to bring a whole lot of rain, and Thursday, February 1st, will not be a good day to head to the beach to go swimming in Los Angeles. It's going to bring a whole lot of rain in the city of Los Angeles and the surrounding areas. It's also going to affect Burbank, California, and Hollywood, California. There will be a lot of puddles in the streets. Avoid the puddles when driving the car. Don't walk through the puddles. Either. It's going to bring a lot of rain in greater Los Angeles, California, and surrounding areas, including Long Beach, California, Anaheim, California, Corona, California, Orange County, California, Riverside, California, Victorville, California, Glendale, California, Burbank, California, Hollywood, California as well. People in Los Angeles, California, be prepared. Have your rubber boots, raincoats ready. When you go outside, you wear your rubber boots, raincoats to keep you dry. Because it's going to bring a lot of rain in Los Angeles, California on Thursday, February 1st, 2024, in greater Los Angeles, California. If anybody lives in Los Angeles, California, be prepared for heavy rain on Thursday, February 1st, 2024. Take care, stay safe. Don't get caught in heavy rain. Stay dry, be safe.
All right, time for an asteroid report. Asteroid report.
This is Frank McDowell, my own TV station, live in Sydney, Nova Scotia. The asteroid 2024 BP1 headed towards the Earth on Friday, February 2nd, 2024. It's going to miss the Earth by 2.1 million miles. But the asteroid is headed towards the Earth. It's going to bypass the Earth altogether. Make sure your telescopes and binoculars ready if it's a clear sky that night. Look for the asteroid up in the sky because the asteroid 2024 BP1 is headed towards the Earth on Friday, February 2nd, 2024. It's going to bypass the Earth altogether. Make sure to have your binoculars and telescopes ready to look for an asteroid up in the sky. It's headed towards the Earth, but it's going to miss the Earth by 2.1 million miles. That asteroid is going to completely bypass the Earth altogether. Be prepared. It may trigger earthquakes somewhere in the world. Even the asteroid bypass the Earth that can trigger a lot of earthquakes because of gravitational pull and things like this. Be prepared. Be safe.
Frankie, is an asteroid gonna hit the Earth?
But then I got a major news from Base Guy, and according to the Base Guy, he said, "Hi Frankie, Base Guy and Pat, probably this show. Hey Frankie and Base Guy's friend Pat from Base Guy show. Probably the show will be back in May. He spent $1,000 on new equipment and wires. The construction does not even start until March in his apartment. I'm Base Guy still parking his entire apartment in 2 boxes. 98% of the viewers don't ever tip or support. I produce music and expensive to run studio. So he is under no pressure to return fast, as he played for it all himself. Pat and Stevan, our Base Guys friends, are the only ones that actually tip in real life. He is still working 15 hours a day behind the scenes for free. So back in May, he just did 10 years solid and only need this break to fix the studio again. That is a message from Base Guy. And then there's another message from Base Guy. He says, but when the show returns in spring, summer, it will be fun. Then he turned 50 years old on October 19, 2024. Imagine 1/5 of his life was the Base Guy show, live nonstop.
1/5 of his life doing Base Guy show. But he's going to take a break. Look at that. Some storms up there by Chapleau in Northern Ontario. That's going on right now. So, Frankie, what would happen if a Category 6 hurricane happened?
From Category 7, then it'll be total destruction.
Total destruction. Now there's some talk about a Category 6 hurricane. Does anyone want to field this one?
And it could be Category 7 and Category 8 and Category 9 and Category 10.
I have strong feelings.
Okay, share your strong feelings. We want to support you.
Okay, so here's the deal. The Category 5, the wording for a Category 5 hurricane is that the wind will cause catastrophic damage. Okay? So what's worse than catastrophic damage? The whole point, like, sure, we need another way to describe hurricanes, especially hurricanes that are made stronger by climate change. We are seeing more
What
of
about
that.
the Category
Mark.
7 hurricane?
Chris.
Mark, kaleidoscopic damage.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
That's
that's when you
above
see colors.
Yes.
That's the guys downtown here in Portland smoking fent.
Yes, but that's the kind of storm that everyone likes, you know? So
Right.
that's a
But
category. Awesome.
seriously, like what more can an emergency manager do somewhere like Florida when they hear Category 6 instead of Category 5? Nothing. Like, you already have to prepare for catastrophic damage either way. You know, if we add a Category 6, then that's going to cheapen the value of a Category 5 because, now it's not the worst. And evacuating during hurricanes is already a problem in hurricane-prone regions because the area that the extreme winds is actually pretty small. You know, you may have a hurricane with 200-kilometer-an-hour winds, and the hurricane force winds will only extend out maybe 40 or 50 kilometers sometimes. And so you'll get somebody who lives 100 kilometers away and be like, well, I got hit by this Category 4 storm and it didn't do anything to me. So there is no value added by adding a Category 6. It doesn't matter if the wind speed is 300 kilometers an hour or 270 kilometers an hour. It's not a good time, right?
Hey, Mark, what about another category? Category 7.
Well, what we should do is we should have Frankie make the categories.
Then I have
They would
category 8 and category 9, category 10, then the 11, then 12, and 13. Then
Yes,
a hyper
exactly.
Category 100.
And Frankie knows how to message for these hurricanes. What does he always say in these videos? Be prepared, right?
Be
So
prepared.
we just need Frankie to make the categories. He will make them intelligently. But to change the current category system to add a category 6 just doesn't add any value to
What
that
about the
situation.
category 7?
Yes, Frankie. We will work together to build a better hurricane scale, and we will have as many categories as you want.
I
What
think
But
we
about
the
just start.
tornado scale could maybe
And
use some work.
what
I mean,
about a
'cause
hyper
we
K?
measure tornadoes based on damage, and sometimes you have a tornado in the middle of a field that is an F5, but actually it's rated F0. It didn't do anything.
Right, that's a pretty interesting case, but at the same time with the Fujita scale, what's worse than catastrophic damage? What's worse than wiping entire homes off the map? But the reason why, and there is some debate in the National Weather Service and perhaps in Environment Canada, but I don't know, to right now they can only rate tornadoes, like you said, Joey, based on damage that they see. And before about 1999, that was the only way to accurately portray tornado strength.
But
Now
now we can
today,
measure wind speeds in different ways.
right. So now today, like I went storm chasing in Oklahoma in what was it, 2017 or something, and it was just the worst. But I saw, and it was the worst because a million other people were there. It was like driving in Portland traffic, but on 2-lane highways. But it was I saw, they've got the Doppler on wheels, and what the Doppler radar is able to do, it doesn't just see rain, it can also see how fast the rain is moving, and so we can estimate the wind speeds. And so the enhanced Fujita scale is fine. It is, unlike hurricanes, a good measure of the strength of the tornado. We just need to modernize how we rate tornadoes so that if we have another data set available, that we can take advantage of that.
And I mean, hey, the Fujita scale, the enhanced scale works fine for just talking about human interactions. How strong a tornado was that? But if we're trying to have like a greater sense of the climate and what's happening in a bigger picture, we really need to know what are these storms doing.
I think that's a good point. Also worth noting, the old Fujita scale went to F12 because when Dr. Ted Fujita made the scale, nobody was really quite sure how strong a tornado would get. And so an F12 was wind speeds moving at the speed of sound. There were a few examples of tornadoes, I think in Ohio and Illinois, where the Weather Service considered rating a tornado an F6, but opted to not. But the old Fujita scale did go up to F12. Now it maxes out at EF5 because same thing with hurricanes, like, what's worse than catastrophic damage? What's worse than wiping entire homes off the map?
Yeah, and hey, we got 12 F keys still, so I don't see why we shouldn't have F12.
Right, so the new scale, it's going to go F1 to F12 and then insert, print screen, and delete.
Delete just says that's just total destruction. It sucks up the very ground beneath it.
Yep.
Into a giant
Black
vortex of.
Yeah.
It's like it's a thing. It essentially becomes a singularity. It's like a mini black hole at that point.
Got to keep an eye out for control too.
Yeah, Control Alt Delete. Just don't hit Shift 5 times, otherwise you'll have sticky keys.
I've
Oh,
become
yeah.
a fan of.
And then you
I've
can't
become a
escape
fan
from the
of,
tornado. You're like,
Right? It's a never-ending loop. We talk about positive feedback loops with climate change. Well, there you go.
I've become a fan of Control Z lately because it fixes all my mistakes in Tableau. So
Does that also work in your marriage? Because it doesn't work in mine.
I've told my wife Control Z, and she still doesn't forget it. So I don't. We have to work on it still. But
earlier this evening, I was giving a demonstration of greenhouse gases in action. I was talking about, end the show with this here. I'm going to turn this water into gas. Hey, here we go. Boom! This water is now gas, and that gas, you've been in a sauna before, you know that when you pour some water on those rocks and that steam comes out and you turn that water into that hot gas, that gas transports heat and traps it. You know that from experience. So we know that water is a greenhouse gas, and we also know that methane and carbon are greenhouse gases and can do the same thing. How do we know this? We knew this for 150 years.
Can I just add real quick? What a greenhouse gas does, this is my understanding, is it just all temperature is a measure of a vibration of different molecules. And like water will molecule or vibrate at a different rate than oxygen and all this stuff. But the warmer it is, the faster it vibrates. And greenhouse gases, they vibrate longer than gases that are not greenhouse gases. So they then share that energy. So CO2, if you warm up CO2 to say 30 degrees Celsius, it will hold that energy for longer than just straight oxygen and the rest of the constituents of the atmosphere. So it literally physically holds heat longer, and that's what we're talking about when we describe greenhouse gases.
I'm, of course, talking about in 1856 when Eunice Newton Foote demonstrated that the greenhouse effect in her own laboratory. There's examples like that going back 150 years where people were able to show that carbon dioxide transports heat. This isn't new science. This isn't new at all. In fact, you can find people back in the 1800s who said this is going to happen.
That steam is another, that steam happens, that things get hot.
Yes, Imogen.
That's what you're saying is not new science, that heat exists.
That's what they said. We've known what greenhouse
Thank you
gases
for shedding
are.
some light on the power of sunlight for warming things in general.
We've known what greenhouse gases are and how they work for 150 years.
So when we were in Baltimore, I was a little taken aback. They use steam heat for the downtown core, and we saw steam coming out of the ground, coming out of the street, basically. And we were thinking either it's magma under the ground or something, because we're from Portland, where we're used to volcanics, or it's I thought it was a car fire, actually, because I heard an ambulance at the same time. But so steam kept us warm at AMS, but generally speaking, it's not a good thing in the atmosphere.
That's right. So that's what the Hunga volcano did. Hunga Tonga Hapai. It put steam into the upper atmosphere, and that gave a temporary warming effect. So that was something that was not human caused, but we could see a measurable change. So Frankie, how do we find you on the internet? Everyone, the star of the show, Frankie McDonald.
If you want to find me on social media, my blue sky's at Frankie MacD. My link tree is Frankie MacDonald. My Twitter is at Frankie MacD, now X. My Facebook is Frankie MacDonald. My Instagram is Frankie MacD1984. My TikTok is FrankDonald1984. My Snapchat, my TikTok is FrankDonald1984. My Clapper is FrankDonald1984. My Twitch is FrankDonald1984. My Snapchat is FrankieMCDON. My YouTube channel is Dogs Wolves. My LinkedIn is Frankie MacDonald. Best luck to you. I'm Frank Donald. You're listening to Comedeorology Weather Report every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Atlantic. Base Guy Show will return in spring and summer.
And why is Frankie not standing outside A&W tonight doing the show from outside? Because A&W you can't find it. It's buried under snow. Sydney, Nova Scotia, completely buried. What a crazy week for Sydney. We're glad Frankie's okay. I messaged Frankie the night of the big storm, and I said, "You doing okay, Frankie?" Because I didn't know if you had power or whatnot. And he said, "I'm doing great so far." As of course you are, buddy. So you're hearing us on C4 88.7, CKUW 95.9, CFBX 92.5, and watching us on Rogers Television. And also you can see us live stream Joey Only Caribou Weather Dude YouTube channel, and all past episodes can be found there as well if you'd like to go back and find a particular episode. Okay, thank you very much to Brandon Hauk and Hilding Donaldson and Chris Calais and Mark Ingalls and Imogen Cookie Bailey and Frankie McDonald and Joe Stover, who made a brief appearance to talk to us about CKUW's Fund Drive. That's right. You enjoy CKUW, support your local station, support your local college station, even if it's not CKUW. Try to keep them going, because college radio, university radio, it's so important in the world of commercial and pop interests. Okay, anyone got any last thing to say?
Best of luck to you. I'm Frankie McDonald. You're listening to Comedeorological Weather Report every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Atlantic. Base Guy Show will return in spring 2024.
Space Guy will return in spring 2024. I'm Joey Only up here in Wells, British Columbia, the top of the Caribbean Mountains. We'll see you next week. Bye for now. Recording stopped.
Hey, so can I add a little bit here with the Hunga Tonga eruption for those on the live stream or watching later?
Absolutely.
So the Hunga Tonga eruption has for sure added heat to the atmosphere, but we got to put it in context. You know, climate change has put us at about 1.25 degrees Celsius additional, whereas the Hunga Tonga eruption is only like something like 0.2 to 0.3 degrees Celsius. So it's putting us over the edge.
And in a very short time that it lasts as well, right? These aren't
right. Yeah, I
effects.
think the impacts from it will be mostly done by like 2027 or whatever. That's the context.
That said, we don't have a lot of past experience with this in like the modern era. So, you know, it injected a lot of water vapor into the stratosphere, which is not easy to remove. You know, hence that it's going to stick around for about 5 years. But that also is somewhat theoretical. So, you know, we'll have to see kind of how the measurements work. You know, back when the ozone hole happened, they were telling us that, you know, we could ban CFCs and the ozone hole would go away within, you know, a decade or so. We're still dealing with it in some form, you know.
Yeah, it's not quite what it was, but I guess it still exists, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, the jury's out there, but, you know, it should gradually decrease in its effects.
But that is a great example, though, because we know what caused the ozone hole. So that's a great example that humans can cause larger effects to things above us,
and
have larger effects to things below it.
It's crazy to me. Obviously, I shouldn't think it's crazy with, you know, flat earthers and the like, but, you know, it's crazy to me that people think that we can't change the climate when as early as the 1980s, we proved that we could change the climate in very almost irreversible ways, or, you know, in sudden ways, you know. So the jury might have been out in the 70s, but it certainly isn't out today when we've seen examples in the recent past.
Yeah, well, then people say
the biggest,
you know, the weather's always changed. Oh, go ahead, Kilding. Go ahead.
I think the biggest problem is that people seem to think that because we can change it, that we're responsible for every little thing that might change. And the thing is, nature keeps changing things, just like we're looking at this volcano. We're looking at jet stream changes that might be from other types of heating that man didn't create. And those things are changing constantly, and those change the parameters that we can affect too. So we are not the only thing that is changing the weather. We are not the only cause for climate change. And I think that's the big thing that people get hung up on.
Yeah, you can say that, but, you know, in a way that's completely not true. You know, it's really measurable what the increase in carbon in the atmosphere has been, particularly since measurements really began in Hawaii like 60 years ago. We can see the bell curve, and all these graphs line up. I mean, this isn't, you know, conspiracy theories, man. This is science.
Well, I'm not saying it is conspiracy theory. I'm just saying there are a lot of people out there that get paranoid and try to get after us, or on the other hand, try to claim that we can't do anything. And I think there's a middle ground we have to realize. We should work towards trying not to create it or to change it, but we should also be able to accept the fact that nature might throw a curveball at us.
Okay, this week,
you know, I think people go overboard with the
this weekend in fuck bullshit news. Hey, Grant Deachman, he bought a bag of M&Ms and they don't have M's anymore. All they have is W for woke. Yeah, there you go. This one's still pretty This one's still pretty popular. Christianity, the popular belief that a celestial Jewish baby who is also his own father, born from a virgin mother, died for 3 days so that he could ascend to heaven on a cloud and then make you live forever, only so if you symbolically eat his flesh, drink his blood, and telepathically tell him you accept him as your Lord and Master, so he can remove you an evil force from your spiritual being that is present in all humanity, because an immoral woman made from a man's rib was hoodwinked by a talking reptile possessed by a malicious angel to secretly eat forbidden fruit from a magical tree. Okay. Here's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. This tree is going to town to explain to the brainwashed kids that he needs carbon to produce oxygen, and that night him and his tree friends all make carbon together. The tree will also explain that the carbon tax is another slick money scam. And okay, over 40% of Americans believe that dinosaurs and people live together.
I'm one of those.
People say we have to look after our own, say people who would never help anyone. Yeah, that one drives me absolutely crazy. Okay, cannabis may enhance brain empathy and connectivity. Fucking rights it does. And I think we looked at this last week. The reason why pregnant people get ultrasounds and MRIs. That's what an MRI of a fetus looks like.
I have a question for Hilding, actually.
Mm-hmm.
What sorts of things do you farm up there? I was before working in energy, I worked in agriculture.
Well, I live in an area where we basically raise cows and we try to get enough forage together to feed them over winter.
Okay.
So basically, we're only farming hay, and a very meager a bit to begin with.
Is there a whole lot of crops up there? Or is it mostly just hay? Like, do you have some winter wheat or anything like that?
No, we just have hay in this area. We're on a high enough mountain plateau here that we get frost any month of the year. So we have trouble. We grow barley and oats for silage, but we don't expect it to mature because it usually freezes first.
Okay, that's really interesting. Thanks. That ticked the box because I was in weather. I worked forecasting for agriculture for Washington State University, so I was just curious to know.
Yeah, I did spend a number of years in agriculture in Fort St. John area, which is actually almost 1,000 kilometers north of here, but it is a warm pocket along the Peace River where we grew wheat and oats and barley and canola, and we planted by the 1st of May. You can't even, there's usually, the ground isn't even thawed out here by the 1st of May. Up there we were planting on the 1st of May.
That's really interesting. Is that kind of a low elevation spot?
And no, it's actually almost the same elevation as here. It seems to be a microclimate because of its close proximity to the Peace River Valley.
Okay. Hey, Brandon, I drove through your night. Well, I don't know exactly where you're at, but I drove from Glacier Park up to Calgary, and I was shocked at how much canola there is over there.
Oh, yes, there's a lot of canola here. I'm in Brooks area there, so I'm between Medicine Hat, Brooks, or Calgary on the Trans-Canada Highway. But yeah, there's lots of canola. We've got corn crops here now too, and wheat, and yeah, you can grow everything around here. I've figured out, especially near Calgary, it's really hard to grow corn because of the elevation that they're at. When you're up in the higher elevations, it's really tough to grow a corn crop. But once you get down towards Brooks and Tabor areas, that's like the heart of corn country here. Oh yeah.
Is it a bit more arid than over towards Calgary than where you're at?
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, elevation is key because it's kind of right on the foothills there. So yeah, it's higher elevation. So it's that Calgary area, especially when it comes to wintertime, it's like the trickiest place to forecast for some times during the year because of it can snow like in a surprise way in the springtime because you get while the rest of southern Alberta gets the rain. And
I wrote a very popular song called Birthday Blizzard Bus Ride Blues about coming through Alberta and a blizzard on my birthday in April.
Oh yeah.
I can remember I worked about 15 minutes drive from Yellowstone National Park up at 6,500 feet elevation, and the only month that I didn't see snow was August.
Yeah, I believe. Oh yeah. I think the only months I haven't seen snow here is July, but I did see snow in August up in the mountains, up on higher elevations there, but I guess you can't really count it as much, but it's still higher elevations there. But yeah, so far July is the only month I've seen snow in every other month.
Yeah, we've had hail storms that made it look like it snowed here for sure in August. And
Yeah, a lot
Wells,
of
we
people
can get snow every month in Wells. It's happened.
a lot of people don't realize that hail is like on the Washington and Oregon coast, we have the most hail days of anywhere in the United States. And a lot of people don't realize that small hail is also a big deal in the Rockies and the other mountains up there in BC.
And we get
And
grapple all the time in the spring. That's usually our transition. Is
yeah, that's a big deal for us too, especially
it's
like
sort of these
March to
convective sort of
April.
cells that drop grapple in March and into April.
Yeah, because of the elevation on the foothills there from about Nanton, Calgary, Red Deer area, they call that Hail Alley for kind of like Tornado Alley, but it's Hail Alley, so it's very popular area for big hailstorms to occur,
was
and that's why they
chasing a storm in Nanton, Alberta in 2008, I believe it was. I was smart enough to get away from the hail core, and then all the people are driving down Highway 2. They're going like 110, 120 kilometers an hour, just speed, and they just drive right into that hail core, and yeah, they're all pulled over in Nanton afterwards, just windows smashed. It was something.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we get big hail here. Oh yeah. Biggest
yeah.
is softball size. 2020, yeah.
I forgot
Yeah,
to.
up against the Rockies, because of the altitude on the east side, you even get the Gulf moisture all the way up into Alberta.
Oh yeah.
And that'll generate you get big storms. The freezing level even in the summer is not very high above the ground. Your high altitude, like from basically Denver up through probably, I don't know what town is west of Edmonton against the Rockies, but probably
Hinton, I
that
guess,
would
yeah.
be.
Hinton and Edson.
Yep.
Yeah, so I would call that the main hail corridor is like Denver
Oh,
all
yeah.
the way up to there.
Oh yeah.
And certainly that Hinton to Edmonton, we were talking about that in the chat the other night, tends to be a pretty active storm alley.
It can be.
It can be.
Hey, to your picture there, everyone who drinks dehydrogen monoxide also dies.
That's true. Water will kill you. If you drink too much water too fast, it's called drowning.
Yes, yeah. Also, if you breathe it in, it's called drowning.
Yeah.
Also known as living in Miami.
So when I was fishing for catfish with my grandpa when I was a kid, he told me that you could drown a catfish, and he showed me how to do that. You just basically run it alongside your boat where it can't take water in its gills, so basically, it's almost like not being able to breathe. But yeah, I thought drowning a fish was impossible until then. So
Yeah, it's just learn a new way to torture an innocent creature.
hey, it was good eating, and we didn't waste any of it. So I feel like it was put to good use. So
That is one thing I do miss growing up in Ontario is going down southern Ontario and getting catfish.
And mosquito bites.
Mud cats and channel cats and
Yep.
Good.
Watch out!
Good.
Watch out for the spine, because they got a spine too. So
It's all
Yeah.
about the salmon in this part of the world.
Oh yeah.
The salmon will sometimes, if the road is flooding, they'll swim across the road.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen things like that in BC actually, yeah. We're pretty high up here. We do have salmon that run up, but generally by the time they get to here, they're pretty haggard.
Are
Pretty hurting
you
looking.
Are you in the Fraser watershed up there?
Yes, we are.
All right. Because I just know on the Columbia they can't get above the Tri-Cities, where the Tri-City Americans are based, which is the best WHL hockey team, except not this year.
Here's where I grew up in Ontario. coming in on it.
Enhance.
So way out there in the sticks, looks like, huh?
In the sticks.
Yeah,
They
you
call
got
it
Bonneville
cottage
Park
country,
nearby.
right?
So what's neat about this area? So Mom's place is down in Cooper, and the hunting camp's up here on Mount Moriah. This is an ancient volcano. It's a pluton. It's a 1.3 billion year old volcano, and that's where the Buddhist temple
Ooh.
is. And a hunting camp's back in there. And I don't want people to know exactly how to find it, but if you look in here, this is just an incredible. I was telling you about how bad the mosquitoes are, and you have to understand how much water and swamp this is.
Yeah, I was gonna say it looks incredibly swampy. It almost looks like a
Yeah.
forest. Like if you look at a satellite map up by Churchill,
Yeah.
it's basically this, but without trees.
You'll
So
need
what
hip
this
waders to get
is,
through there.
what this is
Yeah.
you got the Moriah River watershed. You have Scutamata River watershed. You have several large watersheds, and Beaver Creek. They all come from this large sort of. So you got the mountain, and you stand on top of the mountain. You look out. So I was standing on the mountain, and I seen tornadic weather going on. It was unbelievable. But if you could imagine the distance I could see out across this, it's not until you get up into sort of these areas you start getting into what would be more like the Laurentian mountain hills, MacArthur Mills and things like that in Ontario, right? So you can see those hills in the distance, but you're looking a long ways across these flats. I tell you, like if you want to, that's just a fantastic place to watch thunderstorms on the top of Mount Moriah, where the old fire tower used to be. And as I say, when you go into the forest out of Mom's place, you really are into,
Ooh,
it's just
that
a
lake on the
transition
left.
of rock, swamp, rock, swamp, rock, swamp, the Canadian Shield, right? And you
Yeah,
can even see kind of the old geologic history if you look, still scarred in the landscapes, that were scoured off by the glaciers, right? Just these rocky ridges, and they're really quite special.
It's funny that you talk about standing on top of the mountain and seeing for miles around. My dad just moved to War Road, Minnesota, which has very similar geology.
It
It's
would.
southwest side of Lake of the Woods, but he went to the
The
top of
lower
a hill.
shield is why it would have similar geology too. It's the lower
Right.
part of the Canadian Shield.
So he went to the top of a nearby hill, but it didn't even clear the tops of the trees surrounding it. And so that day, of course, I had to go up to one of the volcanoes and be like, yeah, well, look at this, Dad. Because he chose to move from Salt Lake City, Utah, right at the base of the Wasatch Mountains, staring across the valley at over 10,000-foot peaks. And now he's lucky if he can get 500 feet above the terrain.
Here we are in Wells, right? There's the Bowron Provincial Park in here, Caribou Mountains. And here's Quesnel Lake. It's a very large lake. You can see it from space, even. One of those really prominent features. And
Well, I think we can see all of this from space. I think that's how they took these pictures.
Well, yes. And we got the Caribou Mountains, quite fantastic here. So that's just out our back door. And we do have a small mountain range between here and there, but that's the Bowron Park. And when you get up on top of these mountains, I like to climb all these different mountains because then I can look out across the large gap, and it's really quite something.
Chris, isn't it up there that is one of the only inland temperate rainforests in the world?
That is exactly
over by Blue River, BC.
Well, that's exactly what we have right here in the Caribou River Valley. We have very large cedars, and so we border here in Wells. We're at 4,000 feet, but this drop down to this valley, to the Caribou River Valley, that's 1,000 feet below us. So it's when you get into that low valley, all in through the park, especially here in the backside of Bowron, this is all rainforest all up and through here.
Man, next time I go up to BC, I'm going to have to go up to your area. Last time I was in BC, last time I was in Victoria, actually, but the time before that, I went up to Bella Coola. But I think I need to do some scouting out in the Rockies.
You'd love to see some of what we have here, man. I'd love to show you. All along this, you're going to find areas on this face of the Rockies that have in through Clearwater, definitely down through Revelstoke, big time, right? And definitely rainforest in through here. So the world's only inland rainforest. And of course, you find that on the other side, if you come up into Goat River and whatnot, you come into the ancient forest stands that are in here. Some of the some spectacular inland cedar forests.
I read a
River
book.
Valley. You ever been up there, Joey?
Pardon me?
You ever been up Morkill River Valley?
Pork Hill?
Morkill. Morkill.
I don't believe so. No, where's that?
That's you turn off from Goat River at Crescent Spur
Oh, on the other side,
on the
right?
Fraser, and then you go up the Morkill River Valley, and you can go up 50 kilometers, and you can come out at Grand Cache,
Yeah.
Alberta.
Yeah. Okay. Up through the Wilmar.
And that's all rainforest up in there. It's amazing.
I would like to take that road. Yeah, you can clearly see it's still a maintained logging road. So it's
Yeah, I've been up there 37 kilometers, and it was still like there was 6 feet of snow, and we were up there in January in 21, and it was just amazing up in there. Like the big cedar trees and stuff, they're still up there.
Grand Cache too. That's a really fantastic place, man.
Yeah.
Man, the view of the Rocky Mountains from there. And even when we were playing at Wild Mountain Music Fest, you know, and there's a moment when we were at Wild Mountain Music Fest there in 2016. It was the last time I really worked as a traveling musician was 2000. No, it's 2015 we played Wild Mountain. And the stage is out here outside of town. And I'm standing there looking towards the Rockies and the sun's going down and Blue Rodeo. I was staying on the backstage and so I could just looking over, I could look this way and see Blue Rodeo. You know, I'm on the stage and look this way and I can see the Rocky Mountains and the sunset. And it was just so fucking awesome. It was so beautiful. What a good night. What a good show. Just brought me to tears too. Like hearing Blue Rodeo playing like that. It was just, that was the same weekend I partied my socks off with Gord Downey and the Sadies. And Hilding's up here by Francois Lake is where he lives.
And I'm on a real interesting interior plateau. It seems like the jet stream causes the weather patterns in BC to turn in circles where I'm sitting, so that I hardly ever can predict what it's going to do here.
Hey, Joey, can you turn on the terrain map there?
Yes. Or can I?
Oh, maybe not on this one, huh?
No, this is Google Earth, not Maps.
That's okay. I got it on my phone here. I have offline topo maps for British Columbia.
See, I think part of that would be that also, Hilding, you're on the downside of the mountains here, right? So you're gonna have a lot of air descending.
Yeah, and another thing is that
the orographic lift, and that's going to make things kind of chaotic where you live, right? So that's my experience when I was timber cruising out in the netherworlds and fighting fire out in the netherworlds out here. Is you know, the weather was pretty hard to predict, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, all
do you get a lot of Chinooks?
Brings in a channel of air from the coast too.
Do you get a lot of Chinooks over there?
Not like Brandon does, no. You know, certainly we have that behavior, but you know, when Brandon gets a Chinook, it's like, boof. Whereas we're more likely to just get a temperature swing from straight coastal weather.
Okay. Man, that whole area is, I just love British Columbia. It is by far like I lived outside Reno for a while, and it was great because outside of Reno, there's just nothing, and it's all, you can explore it. But British Columbia is just so much better because it's like that, but with trees.
Man, I really liked it in Bella Coola last year. We were staying at a resort here at Hoggensburg, the Grizzly Bear Tour Resort. So you could see these mountains really, really fantastically just across the way. If you see any of my fire videos, the hill series that are all from Bella Coola, and one of our objectives while we were there was right in here and fire up along this side of the hill.
I stayed at a campground not far east of there once, right at the base of where the highway comes down the hill.
Right, that's the what's the park name, Hilding?
Tweedsmuir?
Tweedsmuir, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
The Tweedsmuir Lodge or whatever, the campground.
And that whole drive from Williams Lake all the way out to Bella Coola, like, I mean, yeah, there's something to be said about the going over the pass on the gravel, but just the whole drive is just fantastic.
It's a real experience. And here you got the volcanic ranges of the Itches and Algatches, the rainbows and whatnot.
Yeah, that's some really interesting geology up there. And so actually, northern British Columbia.
I'll just cut you off for 1 second before you do.
Okay.
I timber cruised out of a camp that was back in here 2 winters ago. So I spent a lot of I snowshoed and snowmobiled all of this relentlessly. And anytime I could see a view of the Itches and Algatches, it was that was the best day. Was that when you recorded your video that you showed earlier? I don't know. Yeah, of the Nazca cone, yeah. My coworker, he's a real drone flying kind of guy, Dave.
So the geology up there is really interesting, and it's actually very similar to the basin and range in the United States. So Nevada and Utah, in that there used to be so off the southern BC and Washington and Oregon coast, we have the Juan de Fuca plate, which is underwriting the North American plate. And that kind of causes some east to west compression. Well, in the days of yore, long ago, that was happening along the entire western margin of North America. But the portion that was going under then slipped, the spreading then slipped under North America in California. And so now that pressure is no longer there, it is spreading out east to west. So if you drive Interstate 80 from Sacramento to Salt Lake City, you'll see just big mountain valley, big mountain, but there's also volcanics in there from the mantle being so much thinner. Normally the crust is 40 kilometers thick, and in Nevada it's 15 kilometers thick. Well, why talk about Nevada? Well, this is what is believed to be behind the volcanism in northern British Columbia. That the same thing that happened in California, where it's no longer having the plate underwrite it, happened in British Columbia as well. And so it is spreading slowly on the east to west axis, meaning that the coast is getting further away from the Rockies. And that is causing the crust to be thinner, which allows the volcanoes to form more easily.
In this example here, so this is the general area from that video I shared to you guys earlier today, the Nazca cone, right? And if you look at this sort of trajectory of where these volcanic events have all sort of been along this line. So what's happened is you got a hot spot, it's sitting there, and then the mantle is moving over time, and the hot spot stays basically in the same place.
The crust is moving over time.
Yes, the crust is moving over top. I mean to say, sorry, and then eventually these little holes poke up here, and then 300,000 years later, a little hole pokes up here, then 300,000 years later, and then finally 66,500 years ago, Nazca had a little event here, and the next time it pokes up, it'll be somewhere else.
So the more basin and range is more to the north, I guess, actually, closer to the Alaska border.
Yeah, so the ones that you were talking about, where up here in Kitwanga and Hazelton,
yes,
this is where those volcanic events happened that you were talking about 350 years ago.
There's one very close to me here, only 60 kilometers straight west of me is Mount Nadina, which erupted last, I think, 300 years ago. Do you know about that one?
I saw something about it.
That would be this one here?
I don't think it's as well studied.
Yeah, it's by Houston there. It would be south of Houston.
Okay, this guy here maybe.
It's called Nadina Mountain. I'm not.
That's it.
Map.
Nadina Mountain.
It would be.
I'd never worked this area or fought fire down there. I've only worked
On a clear day, I
in the
can
Smithers
see King
area,
Mountain from my place.
I've worked fires in this area before, right? And I've worked quite a few. Of course, it seems like every year I come back to the Vanderhoof Forest region, for at least one tour.
Yeah.
And then this year I had quite a few. I ended in 101, and then of course was on the Alberta border last spring. Also was up near Germanson Landing in June, up by Manson Creek.
Well, while you finish that off, I'm gonna head out.
I think it's time to head out. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
Brandon's
it's
already
getting-
gone, and thanks everybody for coming on. And this is just the long shoot the shit after show, so that's how it goes.
You will not see me next week because
No,
I'm on
okay.
night shift.
Oh, bummer. Yeah, that's cool. If you ever do send a video clip of something cool to me, I can throw them in the show as well. The after show.
I will keep that in mind, but I don't think anything cool is going to happen here next week.
No, it seems things are pretty quiet.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Okay, bye everybody.